Shout out to my 2220 sister, Tiff 10, who recently left this world. This one goes out to you. You know, you coming down on people like Fresh and Fit or hiring a prostitute, getting her pregnant, having a pregnant prostitute baby mama, and then going through the whole rigmarole of being a social media personality who likes to tell people that, hey, you don't have to date prostitutes because I can tell you a game on how to get women for free. Three different people, three completely different situations, right? But they all have the same instinct at the end of the day, and that is to protect the image at all costs. Not the truth or the accountability, the image. We got Dr. Cheyenne Bryant. I know I've been talking about her a lot lately, but hey, she's been in the news, so I'm going to talk about it. Dr. Cheyenne Bryant and her credentials and the existence or non-existence thereof. And if any of you are aware of the YouTube show Abba and Preach, Abba of Abba and Preach has recently had a lot of allegations that have come out that have put a lot of doubt and controversy onto somebody who otherwise would be viewed as a space or a person of logic. And that logic is now being challenged with some of the decisions that he's made and allegations that have come out since then. And lastly, we got Tiffany Haddish, who is making sure that she protects the room that she is allowed to be in above anything else. And, you know, all of this is stuff that has just been in the news lately, you know, from Kevin Hart's roast to stuff you've seen on YouTube. And then, you know, the stuff that's been coming out with Dr. Cheyenne. And it's just, you know, I was thinking it's not really so much about them as much as it is about them protecting their brand. I mean, to tell the truth, it's really about what people start to protect when the truth starts costing them something. What do you protect? This is Society Breakdown. Peace, 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 and blessings. What's good? This is your boy Seven Inglewood's on right now in your zone, and this is another episode of Society Breakdown, where we do a little bit of analysis into the cultural diaspora. And today is no different because we are now looking into some of the actions and activities that have gone on in our spaces over the past couple of days. And I thought it was a good time to talk about branding, right? And what people are doing for branding. I mean, hell, I'm trying to establish a brand here for Society Breakdown, right? So everything people do is about branding, right? And when you have branding, that starts to establish for a lot of people some level of public identity. And through that public identity, you are provided some level of authority almost, or people look at you as an authority figure. So it's like, you know, Jennifer Garner selling Capital One or whatever she sells. I can't remember what she sells, but you know, people, stars that you see who like really ain't even doing no other acting, but just being a star nowadays. Like all you doing is selling stuff. Like those sort of people, they have a level of authority because they have a public presence. Doesn't necessarily mean that the thing that they're selling is something that's good or the thing that they're selling is of pure virtue or anything like that. But it just means that they're connected with it. And I think sometimes we get confused with that. And I think that's a psychological thing when we really get into it. But I don't want to get into all that, you know, all that parts of it. But I just wanted to ask the question, right? When somebody's image becomes profitable, can you still trust the person that is underneath it? So, for example, we got, you know, Dr. Cheyenne Bryant. She's built her platform around mental health, right? When she first came out, she was talking about she's been in the space, family, and couples therapy, I believe she said, for the past 17, 18 years or something along those lines.
So I've been in private practice as a doctor of psychology for 17 years.
And in that, she said that she has, you know, several degrees and all these things.
I have multiple degrees, and I'm not going to prove anything to anybody.
And from those accolades that she has, I would imagine she's amassed, from that, she has been able to propel herself onto certain platforms where, you know, she was able to go to the Cam Newton show, and she was with Nick Cannon, and then with Shannon Sharp, and, you know, B. Simone, and several others. And, you know, so she's been on several platforms, and she's kind of established herself as somewhat of an authority, right? in the mental health space. At least that's what she says. She says these things, and that's what she has established herself as. That's what she's put on her website. That's all we've seen about her, right? And in that, she's been voiced or positioned as somewhat of an expert, right? Her credentials be damned. You know, and even with that credentialing, it's like, instead of going as far as saying, hey, this is really what it is. I'm sorry, y'all. You know what I'm saying? I ain't really got no degree. I was hanging out with Ray, Pookie, and Tony and them. We devised this little plan, and we was like, hey, if we look up a school that's already out of business, and we just say that we got a degree from that school, then we look like we got a degree, and we legit with all the bullshit that we say. So that way we can just say anything. Because I say I'm a doctor, then all of a sudden that adds a level of authority to it. Bam. Plan. Done. You know what I'm saying? And that brings us to your boy Abba, right? So he is somebody who's part of Abba and Preach, like I've already talked about on his platform. You know, he and Preach basically talk about current events in a light of, and it seems like they like to analyze things from a position of common sense. You know, like a lot of things that they do seem to make a lot of sense, and I think that's why they've been so successful in the content that they've been able to present and create to this point. I think, unfortunately, what's happened so far is, well, I mean, we're seeing that Abba may very well be a hypocrite. I mean, that's probably the best way to put it. I mean, like, you sitting here saying that, you know, you coming down on people like Fresh and Fit and Myron Gaines, especially for, you know, hiring prostitute. I'm sorry, Walter, for hiring a prostitute, getting her pregnant, having a pregnant prostitute baby mama, and then going through the whole rigmarole of being a social media personality who likes to tell people that, hey, you don't have to date prostitutes because I can tell you a game on how to get women for free. You know what I'm saying? So, all to show that you a trick. You know what I'm saying? It's like, so it's all weird. It's all weird. It's all weird in that space. And then it's even weirder in the sense that here it is that you're somebody who's gotten not only one, but allegedly several women pregnant to this point across the globe to the extent that now, you know, things are starting to reflect negatively on you and your brand. And look, don't get me wrong. I understand. Men make mistakes. People make mistakes. So that's for anybody. So I'm not trying to make it like a man or woman thing, whatever. But in this sense, we're talking about you. Men make mistakes. I get it. But I just wonder how you or any person can build a platform critiquing somebody or critiquing people about their behaviors while you're participating allegedly in that same shit. I'm just saying, like, if I'm sitting here and I'm fat as hell, right? I'm 400, 500 pounds, right? Slovenly fat, apparently fat, like don't even look like I'm trying to lift a weight. And I have a whole platform where I'm talking about working out, critiquing people who don't work out, and calling people fat asses and lard asses. I'm just saying, like, how would that look? I'm just wondering how would that look if I were to participate in that sort of activity? Now, I'm not saying people don't do that. I'm not saying that there aren't people out there who do that, because hell, I'm sure you can find a couple of them out there right now. But I'm just saying, in general, it's just a weird look. And especially when you've made so much content. I think at one point, I think he had said, Abba had said something like they had like 20, 30 some videos just on Fresh and Fit. You know what I'm saying? So I'm sure that's a lot of content and a lot of money they obviously made at their expense. And, you know, hey, however that goes, maybe they both are playing like the spy versus spy sort of thing where, you know, I get you, you get me, pause, sort of thing. You know what I'm saying? Where, you know, that's just how they do it. So that way they build content off each other. Maybe that's what this is. I don't know. But, you know, one North African versus another North African. They got the real NAFTA going on, right? North African free trade. Anyway, getting to the point. I'm just saying, though, like, once your audience sees you in a certain light, right? Once they see once they see you however they see you, it's kind of hard to get out of that space. It's kind of hard to not be that thing that they see you as. So if you're seen as somebody that's logical or disciplined or different in some kind of way, then that pressure kind of becomes that's the thing that they pigeonhole you into being. You know what I'm saying? They pigeonhole you into being that thing. You know what I'm saying? So they want to see that image. They want you to maintain that. And even if you're not that in general, I'm just saying it's not a good look for ABBA in the midst of this. And I want to get some things clear. ABBA is not Preach, right? Preach is married. He's been married for years. He, doesn't necessarily move in the same spaces that ABBA does. I think Preach recently came out caping for ABBA in a way that he was just talking about fresh and fit that you shouldn't do, but I won't get into that because, at days in, he's just trying to protect his friend, and I'm not going to sit there and act like that's always a good thing, but I can see what he's doing, and but Preach is not ABBA. So Preach, things that happen to Preach, happen to Preach. I mean, things that happen to Preach are not things that happen to ABBA and vice versa, right? Another thing is that just because these allegations and accusations are coming out does not mean anything's been proven. Nothing has been completely substantiated as of yet that I know of, with the exception of the one lady who came online and was saying that she was his ex and that she was pregnant at some time, and he and she had gone back and forth to get an abortion, right? So. Because at the end of the day, the internet is always rushing to get to some sort of conclusion. Like everybody wants that instant answer, that instant gratification. It quickly jump to bad, good. They nice people, horrible people, and a lot of people are gray. There's a lot of grays. Everybody want that black and white. There's a lot of grays, a lot of shades of gray. You know what I'm saying? 50 last I checked. But in the internet having that want of wanting us to have something that we can latch on to and say that this is what it is, and that way we can all say that we have the answer. And I think that's really what it comes down to when you think about it. I think we all have a need, or there's a general need within us to feel like we're right, or to feel like we have it, or to feel like we have an understanding already. So as soon as something comes out, we try to grasp it, like, yep, got it. Okay, cool, got it. but in a lot of cases, and a lot of times, we don't. We just don't have it like that. And just as quick as we can expect that we'll know something as soon as we read it, the internet is also quick to jump to punish somebody once they detect some level of hypocrisy. So once they see that your image or the brand that you're putting together isn't necessarily the thing that you are, and you haven't substantiated that differentiation. Like, hey, I know, hey guys, when I'm on here, this is blah blah blah. But when I'm in my daily life, if you haven't done anything like that, and even though people should have that awareness and have that level of awareness, just because the lights on and the cameras on and all that stuff, that you may be a certain way that's slightly different from how you are at the crib or in your daily life. You may be a little bit more measured and all that stuff, just because you want to convey your message or whatever it is in a certain way. At days in, you want to make sure that the money is still coming in. You want to make sure that you're getting paid. You want to make sure that that you are loyal to the thing that pays you. And I think that's why when it comes to being online and being in front of cameras and being in certain spaces, especially when an image or some level of imagery is required, can never say that word right. Now, I've been a BA for years, saying requirements has always been a problem. Getting to the point, when you get to a level where that is required, it just becomes a little bit difficult on the back end to say, oh, hey guys, I'm also a womanizer. I know I talked about how you shouldn't be a womanizer, and if you do, be honest about it and let people know who the band. But yeah, me, Pookie, Ray, and Tony over here was like, hey, fuck all that shit. We don't do that shit for real. Fuck these bitches, get money. So, hey, and again, now you could do that. And maybe that'll help to save your brand and all that stuff. And I haven't been out in these internet streets long enough for me to be able to gauge what the actual impact of something like this could be to a platform like ABBA and Preachers, but I know it can't be necessarily good. I know it can't be good for Abba, and it definitely can't be good for Preach when he just catching strays for being there, and he ain't had nothing to do with it for real. You know what I'm saying? So, but yeah, I mean, like I said, the internet likes to punish people for being hypocrites. They they it's like they want the internet to be a place of absolutes. And in wanting the internet to be a place of absolutes, they want absolute answers. They want you to absolute have it. And if you absolutely don't have it, and you don't speak to the fact that you don't absolutely have it, because sometimes people will give you grace for that, and then you speak with a level of authority as if you have it, once they see that you don't, that's your ass. That's how it moves. I ain't been out here long, but I've been out here long enough. I'll say that. So that just makes me wonder, right? Do people believe in the things that they believe, or do they just believe in the people that's saying it? Like, do they actually believe the shit they believe, or they just like the person who said something and they said it in a nice way and waited this real cool?
If you have a critique for the resistance, for our resistance, then you better have an established record of critique of our oppression. If you have no interest in equal rights for black people, then do not make suggestions to those who do.
And it was like, oh man, I like the way that they said that. I like that person. I like what they said. So I'm pro this. Whatever it is, I'm pro this. Now, just because of somebody who said it. So I don't know. I wonder about that. I wonder about the power of celebrity in that sort of sense, when it has the ability to conform or cajole somebody's whole actions and likes and dislikes. And you know, when you think about it though, sometimes it's not the authority or the identity that people protect, right? Sometimes it's just mere access. And that brings up our sister Tiffany Haddish, right? So recently she was a part of the Kevin Hart roast, and if you'd like to get into that conversation, we can have several. Everybody and their mama's already broken it down. It looked bad. George Floyd jokes was going left and right. That Hinchcliffe character is out. Why is it? Here's a question. I always just wonder, why is it when it comes to roasts for black people and white people are there, they have to go racist? Like, they can't go funny. They have to go racist. And it's rarely like funny racist. It's just racist. Like, why is like, oh, here's my opportunity to let my hair down. and that's what you do when you let your hair down. You go racist. I just want to know why is that? Why is that when they decide to do a roast and the black person is the person of honor, the person in question, somebody has to go racist. Like they have to. There's rarely a time when it's like the black person is doing the joke and the white person is there and the black person is like, and here's some big dick jokes for you. And here's a joke about how I ran through your mom and wife. Here's some big dick jokes here's some basketball jokes. And anyway, I'm just saying, I haven't seen a whole lot of roasts. To be fair, I haven't seen a whole lot. I saw the one for Patrice O'Neal, Kevin Hart, Tom Brady, Justin Bieber. I think those were probably like the main ones I saw. And I didn't really, and Richard Pryor. Oh God. So and a lot of those were, and just one thing that I noticed throughout a lot of them was the amount of racism that just came from white people when carte blanche was provided. Oh, will you be serving carte blanche? Oh, thank you. I'd like to have the racism. So anyway, Tiffany Haddish, George Floyd joke. She says that she wasn't there when Tony Hinchcliffe said the joke, even though after he came down from his set, she was the one who reached over. She was the one who reached over and gave him a pat on his back and said, good job. But after that, it was just interesting how she had a response where she was really defiant, right? Really defensive and kind of elusive when a reporter, TMZ reporter, you could hear was a sister, was asking her, what her thoughts were in the moment as Tony Hinchcliffe is sitting here doing this George Floyd joke at the expense of Kevin Hart. Racist as hell, not funny, and everybody's sitting here forced to act like it is. How do you feel? What are your thoughts? Can you provide us any sort of insight? And instead of providing that insight, what did she do? She decided to get defiant.
Is this just comedy? Or are people taking it too seriously?
Is this all comedians saying it that wasn't invited?
So that lets me know right then and there everything I need to know about Tiffany, for real. Because what you're saying is you're proud to be in the room, even though you got a shitty job being in the room. If I'm getting this right, it sounds like you don't mind getting slapped in the face because that slap in the face provides you the privilege of being in the room. Is that about right?
Something I didn't hear the George Floyd joke because I had to pee so bad.
So you went to the bathroom with
yeah,
that?
I was a glorified seat filler, and I was tired.
Well,
and here's the weird part, right? So you didn't hear the joke, but immediately you defending the room. You defending everybody in the room. So you telling everybody that, because that's what you said, right? Initially you said, I wasn't even there. I was in the bathroom. I went to the bathroom. But then you defending everybody in the room. Like you have no problem. That's why it's just weird to me when people claim any sort of level of faction at Days End, because I'm always gonna be black. I'm always gonna be black, and that's the thing. And I maybe that's to my detriment. Maybe that's to my detriment because I know what I am when I come in the door, and I know that probably puts a mark on me, maybe my heart on my sleeve. Maybe that even precludes me from being in some sort of some conversations. But for somebody to defend a space that's disrespectful to their existence in the space, to their presence in the space, to me that says that you're that space more than you are anything else. Meaning you're more comedian than you are black. People say I'm a Christian before I am black. Hey, be whatever you want to be. But the other thing that you say that you aren't is disrespecting the fuck out of black people. That's always the thing that's always the weird problem that I have when it comes to people who are doing stuff like that or saying stuff like that. I'm this before I'm black. I'm black first every day of my life. Helps that that's my name, but in addition to that, I'm still going to be who I am every single day. I'm not going to be a thing, a belief system, an occupation before I am the thing that I look like I am every day. That's the thing. And I'm not saying like you can't be a black BA or I'm sorry, a BA or and work in IT or be a nurse or a doctor, a lawyer, anything like that. But I'm just saying, as a person of color, as a black person, that there are certain spaces, places, and conversations that you're either not allowed to be in, you're precluded from, or that involve you and that are to your detriment. Like, it's 2026. How do we act like that ain't the case? Especially in this America. I digress. So, like I said, Tiffany is sitting there defending the joke inside a room that she wasn't even in, allegedly, right? Because if you think about it, psychologically, that means her instinct just kicked in. She didn't even know what the hell happened, and her instinct kicked in to defend at all costs. Defend. I must defend the room that they've allowed me to be into, that they've allowed me in, even though the room was bullshit. And that just shows how network, relationship, and access driven Hollywood really is, right? that let you understand how things like the casting couch can exist. That lets you understand how things like Epstein and his connections with modeling agencies can exist, and the correlation between the two. It's not a coincidence. We're seeing that people are protecting the rooms before they're protecting their own principles. It's almost like to gain access into the rooms, the penalty or the payment was your pride or your principles. It's a lot of peace. But what's that teaching us at Days In, right? At Days In, it's teaching us that celebrities are not leaders, right? They are entertainers. They're brands. They are businesses trying to make money just like everybody else.
I just told you a little while ago, these leaders that they call leaders, this included Lena Horne, this included Dick Gregory, and this included comedians, comics, trumpet players, baseball players.
And the audience seems to confuse the fact that this ad is coming with a Target logo in the corner of it versus this one coming from Snoop Dogg. But at Days In, they're both brands. They're both businesses. And they're both trying to get some bread. A lot of bees. Because we've seen what it is. We have seen what it is. Snoop, Nelly, and all them other celebrities are not trying to protect any communities. They are trying to protect those networks. They are trying to protect that access. They're trying to protect those relationships. They want to keep those relationships up because that's the access to the money, to the bag, to whatever it is that allowed them access into the room. So when speaking honest threatens your access, how many people are really going to speak the truth? Like your boy Jesse Williams when he made that huge statement at the BET Awards, I think it was some years back.
We've been floating this country on credit for centuries, yo. And we're done watching and waiting while this invention called whiteness uses and abuses us, burying black people out of sight and out of mind while extracting our culture, our dollars, our entertainment like oil, black gold, ghettoizing and demeaning our creations, then stealing them, gentrifying our genius, and then trying us on like costumes before discarding our bodies like rinds of strange fruit.
Then he left his black wife, got with a white woman, and we ain't heard from him since. Is that why you made that big grand statement so you can get you a white woman and run off? Is that what it was? I'm just saying, man, it's wild. It's wild. It's wild because we're at a time now where we need the truth. We need honesty. We need people who are willing to sacrifice the fact that maybe some people won't like what you have to say, but you got to say it any fucking way. We need that. But I digress. All right. So let's bring it on back, right? So when you look at all three of these together, you got Dr. Bryant, who's protecting some level of authority, her platform that she created and the amount of influence that she had on black women. And then you got Abba, right? Abba was protecting his identity, his image, and the consistency of the character that he projected to the people as somebody who thinks logically, has a level of authority in that space, and that people can look to, to be level-headed and speak with some level of common sense, right? Especially when it came to relationships and just interacting in the social space. And lastly, you had Tiffany, who's protecting her access to Hollywood, to the Hollywood elites, and the relationships that she has, and the positioning that she has in the industry. These are all different people, comedian podcaster, and doctor of psychiatry or psychology. Oh yeah, psychology. Different people. different situations, but they all had the same instinct, and that was to protect what benefits you, protect the bag at all costs. And when you think about it, we all do this. We all do this for our families, for whatever political beliefs we have, for whatever relationships and careers that we're looking to attain or hold on to, right? People protect their identities and the things that they most align with, whether that be some sort of tribalism through their favorite team, hell, through their fraternal organization, through their religion. And sometimes they'll do that even when evidence conflicts with the shit that they're choosing. Like, these are all choices. But it seems that days in, a lot of these choices are more instinctive than we'd like to admit. A lot of people don't defend the truth. They defend the thing that they're most emotionally invested into. Who do you actually trust? Like, obviously, you trust your mama, you trust your daddy. Well, you trust your mama, you trust your daddy, you trust your greasy grandmammy, right? You trust me, of course. You trust Pookie, Ray, Lil Tony. You trust all them. Who else do you trust outside of your circle? That's what I'm saying. So, like, of the people out there, who would you consider an authority on whatever thing that you're looking into? Right? What standards do you use when you're vetting people? When you're, especially when they're a celebrity. When it's somebody who's famous that's in your face and saying things to you, do you immediately believe what they're talking about? Or do you just say, hold on, Ice Cube, why are you trying to talk to Donald Trump? Not that I'm saying that that's a bad thing, because hell, it could be a great thing if you can get the man who is showing himself to be one of the biggest and worst racists in office of our lifetime to somehow capitulate to the shit that you're saying, then hey, that's a win. But still, we need a way to vet to make sure that whatever you're doing makes sense. So that's what I'm saying. What standards do you use to vet people? And lastly, do you believe the people or do you believe the branding that they're associated with? Because just because somebody established some level of celebrity doesn't mean that they are a community. And just because they have followers doesn't mean that those followers are a community. Because fame ain't leadership. And whatever reach that they have doesn't necessarily mean that they have integrity. And I'd be lying if I said that the internet didn't make it easy, hella easy for people to build identities that reality can't sustain. Or the scary part ain't that people are out there performing, right? I don't think that's the scary part. I think it's the fact that most of us don't realize how often we are rewarding the performance. But that's what I'm going to leave this for today. Y'all go ahead and let me know what you think in the comments down below. Please make sure you hit the like, subscribe, and all that humana. Like and share. Share this with your good people, and I will holler at you on the next one. Please make sure that you take care of each other until next time, and live dangerously as you do. Peace. And I'm out.